Hello, and welcome to another episode of Acceptable Madness. My name is Scott, and today I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind a little bit, which is high school cliques. Now, I know that even I think it's a little bit weird that that's been something that's on my mind recently since I'm well out of high school. But yesterday I actually went to see. I have an appreciation. I was in band whenever I was in high school, so I have an appreciation for classical music and stuff like that. So I went to see the local Philharmonic, and as I was sitting there, I started to reminisce a little bit about my time. I played trumpet whenever I was in high school, and I thought about just high school existence. And whenever I was back then, whenever I was in band and everything, I had really embraced every aspect of it. I was in a wind ensemble, I was in jazz band, marching band. I even took private lessons and was in a couple non-school related band type things, along with occasionally doing philanthropy by playing at a local retirement community or something like that. But I can say with just the utmost sincerity that although I was in that many band activities, I stopped liking it before my 11th grade years. So then I did it for 2 more years, and I really didn't enjoy it that much. And the reason that I wanted to say that was because for my entire high school and even middle school existence, the people that I always fit in with were the band kids. And then once 11th grade, 12th grade hit, and I had lost a lot of interest in the amount of band things that I was doing. I stopped taking private lessons. I wasn't as motivated. I didn't practice as much. There started to become a distance between me and a lot of other people within the band. So high school cliques have been on my mind because I never really thought about it. But back whenever I was in high school, I always had this feeling of this is where I belong, but I still never really felt like I fit in. And then I started thinking about some of the other stereotypical friend groups or cliques that you can have in high school, and I never really fit in with any of those either. And as I've gotten older and everything, I've realized that, I really don't hold a relationship with a lot of the people that I went to high school with, except for a select few. And those select few, I started talking to them more after I had graduated high school. So it was more just through circumstances that we met each other, and we were at a point where it made sense, and we appreciated each other, and we were kind of moving in the same direction past high school. So we're still connected, at least at some level. But whenever I was in high school and I stopped feeling like I was fitting in with the band crowd, I looked around and tried to find other crowds to fit into, and I never found it. And I want to explain the different cliques that I kind of experienced and the ones that I did and didn't mesh with, and how I think that's affected me to this day. So the first thing I'll say is I think I am a relatively smart person. If I'm passionate or interested in something, then I will pursue it, and I will seek knowledge about it. So, but I had this level of apathy towards education whenever I was in high school. So I was not one of the smarter people. I wasn't dumb. I was getting A's, B's, the very, very occasional C. But I never strived for anything more. I got straight A's once whenever I was in, I think, 9th or 10th grade. And as you know, in high school, they do 9 weeks as opposed to a semester. So, but for the first 9 weeks, I tried really, really hard. I really wanted straight A's, and I got them, and I felt no satisfaction from it. Money didn't pour out of my ass. There were no fireworks or streamers or confetti or anything that made me feel better at all. So I really felt no satisfaction from it. And after that, I stopped trying for straight A's because I didn't find it to be that important. I didn't take away anything that I thought really benefit my future. And going for straight A's for some people is this monumental moment because they put this weight in their self-worth, they put that on grades. And I never did that. Although I still tried in school, and I didn't want to, like, flunk out or anything. I put in just enough effort to graduate and have the choice at college that I wanted to. And I didn't even think that that was what I was doing. I was basically just not studying, barely doing homework, definitely teaming up with a lot of people to, like, I took a biology class later in high school, and I don't know anything about biology, so I don't know what I was thinking. It was AP Bio, so to prepare for college biology. And I totally 100% rode the coattails of some of my friends. And looking back, I mean, I definitely didn't take advantage of the time that I was given, but all I'm trying to say is that I do not and did not really care about school, especially in high school. That even stuck with me up through college a little bit. I was very rebellious, and I really didn't want to do, like, any of the assignments. The second you come up or you tell me something that I don't think has some sort of actual reasoning to be explained, or something that I'll be able to take into my everyday discussions, if you can't give me something like that, then I won't pay attention unless I find it interesting. So I've always been kind of a rebellious student, and honestly not a very good one. So I started off, and I had these friends. They lived close to where I was. They went to the same high school and everything. And I tried to fit in with all these people that were trying really, really hard at school. And very quickly, I was not interested in being really acquainted with them. Because at least in my eyes, and I nothing negative to anybody, but in my eyes, I thought that a lot of the time, I don't like when people put self-worth in the and like studying or school, because school is just something that you have to do anymore. So, like, I didn't take a lot of pride in the fact that I was being forced to do something. So actually, believe it or not, that still sticks with me till today. I went to Penn State, and a lot of people that go to Penn State have this diehard allegiance to it. And I could not care less about Penn State, how the football team's doing, how the school itself is doing. I really don't care about any of that, because just because I went there doesn't mean I should have this unending allegiance to it, like I said, because all they've done was, that was the path that I took, and the one that was kind of expected of me was to go to college. And just because I chose Penn State and paid them in a lot of money just to go there to get an education, not to say that I'm ungrateful, but I just don't care about Penn State as a school. I could have gotten it from anywhere, and Penn State was just the one that appealed to me the most. So, but yeah, I just didn't care about school at all, and I wasn't one of the smart kids. And the reason that that's one of the more long-winded ones was because because there were a lot of people that I did talk to for a while that was in that group. But I always kind of felt ostracized because I don't want to say that I wasn't as smart as them, but I wasn't dedicating the time and resources to what they were. So I didn't really try that hard in math. And to this day, I still think math is really boring. And whenever I was in high school, I was in the same boat, and I didn't want to sit down and talk about school and how I did on a test or all that. Another clique that I never fit in with was the sports crowd. I'm a pretty scrawny guy, and even whenever I did sports, it was track or cross country. And then I actually, based on scheduling within my high school, I had to choose between either marching band or cross country, and I chose marching band because that one made more sense to me, and it still does. And I did track up through like 9th or 10th grade or something. But I never wanted to try hard. I basically wanted to go to something after school to hang out with friends. And then one year we got a new coach, and he really wanted everybody to try. And he wanted us to do plyometrics after a pretty long workout. And I just saw that and was like, if this is what's going to be expected from me on a day-to-day basis, then I'm just going to get bored. So I actually never showed up to another practice after day one. Never tried football. I played soccer whenever I was a kid, but nothing past that. And I think baseball is the most mundane sport in the world. It's fucking horrible. So, I was never in the sport crowd. I was never in the, I don't know, what I imagine a lot of parents would call like a delinquent crowd. I never smoke or drank or anything like that. I'm very introverted and I hate parties. So even if I had a birthday party for myself, I would probably disappear somewhere and just fall asleep and just wait for it to be over. But so I was never in any of those crowds. So I gravitated towards the crowd that I was already kind of on a path for, which was the band crowd. And even still, I did not fit in with them in my own brain. I didn't really like talking with them, especially the people that were very, very dedicated to the craft of whatever instrument they play or just music in general. I just was not that interested at all. I played trumpet. I like trumpet. I haven't touched it in 4 years, and it was because I burnt myself out because of how many different band things I was in that I listed earlier, like jazz and wind ensemble and stuff. And there were just some things that turned me off of band, and it was, one, I didn't like the amount of dedication that you have to have. You basically have to practice every day for at least like half an hour, likely more than that if you want to be a good instrumentalist. You have to play a lot. And I wasn't willing to put that dedication in because I thought band was fun, but again, it was just a way to kind of mess around with people. It wasn't a way for me to have this hobby that I wanted to take up. It was basically just something to do. And actually, some of the stuff that started to take my interest away from band was I had a few different band directors because the ones from all the different grades would kind of come together and work on marching band. But the band director that I had for jazz band one day, he walked into the room and we were getting ready for this competition. And he basically said, if you want to do well in this competition, you have to be willing to eat dirt for the band. And he said that, and clearly it was an exaggeration. He wasn't going to make us actually eat dirt. But the amount of dedication, and just honestly to me, that was like a dictator-esque type comment. Like, you have to be willing to die for your country, and you have to be willing to eat dirt for the band. Or, I don't know. It just seemed ridiculous to me. And I wasn't passionate enough about it. So whenever he said that, I still think it's fucking ridiculous. Like, you're asking high school kids to do that. And I'm not even saying that the thought behind it's bad, but say it in a better way. That's a lot less, I don't know, severe. Say it like a normal person. Like, you guys are going to have to put a lot of effort into this. Okay, that's fucking great. That I can take any day of the week. But he actually said that, and at that moment I was like, well, I'm not dealing with this. And then I actually told him I was going to quit the jazz band. Until later I realized the error of my ways, and went back and tried to get my position back. And it was mostly because, it wasn't because I wanted to be in the jazz band, because I really, after a comment like that, had no interest in indulging in him. But it was more of, that was kind of, I had signed up for jazz band, so it was kind of expected of me, so I should do it. But basically, there were a lot of other people that were totally fine with putting in the amount of dedication and effort that he wanted. And I was just not one of those people. And so there was this gap that started being, that was put between us. So I didn't like going to band practices, no matter what band it was. I didn't enjoy going to the practices or anything. But these other people were interested. And I always thought that they were ridiculous because I didn't understand how they could be so willing to go like every day to these same practices and do the same shit. And it always just blew me away and blew my mind. And whenever I stopped being interested in it, the conversations that I had with people in the band started to shrink. So like I had said earlier, whenever I, wasn't having a lot of fun with the actual schoolwork and the education element of school, and I didn't want to study a lot or try really hard to get into like some fancy college or anything, I didn't want to sit there and talk about how people did on their tests, so that, because a lot of people do that just to kind of validate themselves, because they'll get like a 98 and be like, oh, what'd you get? It's like, oh yeah, I got a 94. And they're like, oh wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I got a 98. And really the only reason they're asking is because they know that they did so well that they want to, and again, this is my opinion, but I see that as a way for them to just very simply feel smarter than the person that had the lower score. So I actually made a rule never to ask people about their test grades or to just give an answer. I would just give some ambiguous comment like, oh yeah, I did pretty well. Oh yeah, no, it was pretty easy. I would always do something like that because I didn't want to validate anybody. And I also didn't want to, if I had done better, I would feel bad if this person was all excited about how they did and then I beat them. But basically the conversations about not wanting to talk about tests, that was the same thing that happened with band, where I didn't want to talk about band anymore. And so I would go to like marching band and I would go to jazz band and all that. And I would find ways to just distract myself. I got in trouble one day because I was just playing chess with the guy that was sitting next to me on our phone. And we got caught because we weren't being discreet about it at all. So, you know, we deserved to get caught. But it wasn't because I was just trying to be this piece of shit kid that wasn't paying attention. It was just because I was so bored because I wasn't interested. And then afterwards, people would walk to the bus and they'd be talking about band or something. And I just had no interest. So at about that point, which I was interested in band and I tried hard in school, 9th, 10th, maybe some of 11th grade. But then it just kind of stopped. And towards the end, I had no interest in anything enough to find a clique that I belonged in. So, I would stop hanging out with a lot of the people that were in the similar areas that I was. So I would stop hanging out with some of the people that I was in the band with and stopped spending as much time out of the house. And I don't know if it's because of this apathy that came over me or my general rebelliousness towards things that we're forced to do. Like I really don't like the idea that we're forced to go to school, because even though I know that education is imperative, I don't like the fact that you're forced to go and forced to follow this specific schedule and forced to do this work that people are telling you to do. I felt the same way with college. I will do and will always feel the same way about an employer. I don't like being told what to do, period. I think I have this problem with authority. That doesn't mean that I'm going to do a terrible job, because I know that I still need to perform as well as I can. But there will always be a disconnect between me and whatever boss I have. And it's just because I basically do what I have to, and that's how I feel about being told to do stuff. And that's just how my brain works. But yeah, I hit senior year and I didn't find a clique that I belonged in. And it was a lonely last year of high school. And it was lonelier because I knew that college was coming. And I went to Penn State, one of the branch campuses, and I think 30 or 40 other students from my high school went there. We had a large high school, about 500 some graduating class. I don't know. I don't remember. But it was 500 something. But we had 30 of those people going to the college that I went to. And I thought that would be nice because I'd be able to go up and see some familiar faces and I'd be able to do something to try to fit in. But the transition from high school to college did a lot on my mental health. And the roommates that I got in college were really undesirable. And maybe that'll be a topic of a podcast all on its own in the future. But they were really bad. And so I went from fitting into the band crowd and, belonging with them in 11th grade, 10th grade. Again, I don't remember the exact time that shift in mentality happened. And but I went from hanging out with these people to not fitting in anywhere. And I think all of it happened due to apathy that I had, definitely rebelliousness towards the man and having to be told what to do. But a lot of it happened due to apathy that came from my mental health and depression and anxiety ramping up. Whenever I hit that point, I stopped being able to communicate with people as well. And it actually, basically for my entire college career, and some before and some after, I have not been able to talk with people super easily. I have a really hard time finding common ground with them. And I also have a lot of qualities that if I see them in a person, I'm not interested in talking to them, such as like a lack of open-mindedness or something like that. But I have this impossibly hard time talking with people. And I think it's basically all due to that disconnect that happened, where now I used to be able to relate to people about, whatever was going on. So I used to try to fit in with all the smarter kids. And I don't mean to say that I'm dumber, but at least in terms of school, the students that tried harder, I used to try to fit in with them. And then eventually that fell through. Then I tried the band kids and I tried to fit in with them. And eventually that fell through too. And then I hit a point where I didn't think that fitting in with these people really mattered, and I basically went into my own little world and didn't talk with anybody but just staying by myself. And I like that independence, and I like being alone most of the time, but it can be really, really difficult. It can be hard to deal with, and it can also have some strain on your mental health. I mentioned in previous podcasts that having a good support system is really important. But the hard thing is, what it was for me was, whenever you don't really have anybody that you can find a way to relate to, it's impossible to find a support system. So, I was depressed towards the end of, it started in like 8th grade, and it has varying degrees of aggression, I guess. I don't know. And it was pretty bad in that time, in like senior year, first year of college. But because I didn't find a clique that I fit in with, I didn't know where to start with finding a group of friends. So for my entire first year of college, I didn't really talk to anybody. I barely left my room. I got really invested in stuff that I don't think matters, like video games and watching TV, or trying to build relationships that really didn't have any foundation. So, like, there was no vulnerability or emotional connection between these people. It was more of just like, well, you exist and I exist, so there. Now we'll talk occasionally. There was no effort to make a real meaningful relationship. And I was aware of all this, and I knew that it wasn't ideal, and it was pretty bad for me. So I actually started going to, like, personal counseling, which was just the free therapy on campus. And I also, one thing that I thought made sense was I was going to become an RA, or a resident assistant, for my college. And that would be a way to kind of put me in front of a bunch of people that I was basically forced to talk to, so that I could get out of my comfort zone a little bit. And since then, I mean, it was really good for me. It was still hard for me to get out and talk to some of those people sometimes, because I was having a hard time finding common ground to talk to them, or to talk with them about, or anything. And but I have made some really lifelong friends, and actually Alex, my girlfriend, is my she was one of my residents my sophomore year, her freshman year. So clearly I made an effort, and it ended up working out. But again, it all stemmed from this inability to kind of find where I fit in with everybody else. Like, if I went and I told someone back in high school what I was interested in, I just don't think their interests would have aligned with mine at the time. I don't even know what I would have said, because I hit that point where I wasn't really interested in anything. I was just kind of surviving day by day. And I was doing what I could just to get by. And I wasn't trying anything too spectacularly hard. And that was the same for my freshman year of college too, where I was taking classes that I hated. For a major, I actually started going to college with computer engineering until I realized that I fucking hate engineering. It's so boring, and it's just not for me. And so I went and I was taking these classes. I wasn't doing very well. And then I also didn't have anything that I was happy doing. So, like I've said before, I spent a lot of time playing video games and stuff like that. But when you don't find any sort of real enjoyment, or if you're not really passionate about it and you're just sitting there and going with the flow, and it feels like you're in a rut, and a pretty bad one. So I would play these games, and I was really competitive too. So I would try to get like world records, like speed runs and stuff like that. And for a few games, I got pretty quick. One in particular was called Volgar the Viking. Not that matters, but I was ranked, I think, top 10 for a little while in terms of speed for that whenever that came out. But I played it a lot, and I hit a point where I just didn't care anymore. So I would play it, and then I would get disappointed, and I would get mad at myself because I wasn't having any fun. But I didn't know what else to do with my time because I was not having any fun. Like, I wasn't going to try hard on my homework, so I was going to do bare minimum. And looking back, so I took a basic intro-level physics course. And again, I'm not great with numbers. And so I took it. I passed with I think a C or something. I didn't like it, and that was one of the things that kind of made me interested in changing my major, just because I didn't think it was fun. I couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life, basically. And but one of my other friends, he had to take it either his sophomore or junior year, and we were the same age. So he asked for the notes after I'd gone over, and he was looking over a test that I had taken. And I never looked over the work that I had gotten back, but he was looking over it, and he showed it to me one day laughing and said that he understood why I changed my major from computer engineering to marketing. And he showed me a problem on a test, and during the working out the equation, I did the equation 10 divided by 1, which is, the answer is very obviously 10, and I accidentally put 0.1. And I know that might be an honest mistake, but an honest mistake like that should not happen if you're going to go into engineering. That was a wake-up call for me. Well, I had already had the wake-up call, but it really helped solidify the thought that maybe I shouldn't be doing engineering. But I don't know. I just thought that was funny. But sorry for the tangent. But again, going back to it, it just has to do with once I kind of couldn't find my place in the world. I didn't know what friend groups to be a part of. I didn't know who I was, who I could talk to and what to do. I would go to these really unsatisfying hobbies, and they weren't doing anything for me. And then I would get upset with myself because I was wasting my time, but I didn't know what else to be doing. So, I mean, all that eventually led to where I am now, which is I have fun recording podcasts, even though I don't look at my analytics because I know that not a lot of people listen to these. So, and I don't really care about them that much either. This is more for my mental health and the hope that I can help some people out. But for now, I'm just assuming it's for my own mental health. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. Where I am now is better because I'm a lot more comfortable, a lot more vulnerable, and I found some stuff that I can do, and I'm happy doing it. But it's been a long transition, and there have been a lot of negative thoughts on the way. And actually along the way, I haven't had too aggressive of suicidal thoughts recently. They come here and there. They're I mean, I still have a lot of intrusive thoughts where I'll just be walking and all of a sudden I have that thought to jump in front of a car. But I think everybody gets those. But I get them very, very frequently. So suicide is something that is always on my mind. Not that I would like to do it, but it's just always a thought. But I haven't had this real desire to act on it. And I think a lot of that comes from this newfound comfort that I have in being happier with not having to fit into a clique. Because once you get to college, there are still cliques. And once you get out of college, they kind of vanish. And then they're not really cliques. It's just individual friend groups where maybe that friend group likes to go out and party all the time, but it's not like they're the partying crowd or something. It's just a group of friends. And so I found outside of college a a group of friends that likes playing board games or likes hanging out and like watching crappy movies like Birdemic or The Room or stuff like that, and just a fun way to kind of mess around and just have fun with each other and let the world, let all the problems of the world just kind of fade away. And it's really nice. But up until now, like throughout college and the end of high school, whenever I really couldn't find my place, the thoughts were rough. It was really hard to find my place in the world. It still can be now, but it was a lot harder then. And those suicidal thoughts and negative actions and all of that stuff, it definitely impacted my thoughts and definitely made me more likely to stay inside and do stuff that I was unhappy doing until eventually like I snapped or something. And I don't know. All I know is that I was able to go through high school and not have a great or not. I had some good friends, but I didn't feel really connected to them, and it was because my own unwillingness to let myself be connected to them. And then I go to college, and it's the same thing until the end of it. And just all I can say is if you hit that point where, you know, if you're in high school or college, or even if you've graduated college and you're like 45 and you still haven't been able to find that group of friends, don't fret about it. Just kind of, you don't even have to put yourself out there. Just try to do what you like doing, and other people will just, they magically seem to find you sometimes. And that's a good lesson to have, because I did go out of my way to find some of my friends becoming an RA and stuff. So I did have to put myself out of my comfort zone a little bit. But most of the reason that I wanted to be an RA was because I'd get a room to myself in college, and it would be a free room because they'd be paying for it. So that was actually, I guess this is my point, because I decided to be an RA for my own kind of selfishness, which is I want a room to myself. And from there, I've made some friends that I guarantee are going to be very lifelong friends. And it was nice. And so kind of doing what I wanted to and trying to do whatever I could to make myself happy led me to some people that could genuinely talk with me, and we could really connect, and we could actually find a way to kind of enjoy life a little bit more. I didn't fit into a lot of the crowds in high school. I didn't want to in college, but it's all worked out. And there are times where it was really rough and where I thought about killing myself very seriously. And I'm glad I haven't. And I'm glad that I won't. And yeah, also, another reason that I know that I'm not going to commit suicide or do anything to myself is because I'm trying to make this brand, and I want it to be a brand that's reflective of me. And not in like a self-aggrandizing way or anything like that, but just I want it to be a personal brand. I want to be able to kind of pour myself out there for my own sake and, again, to hopefully help people. But if I got a following of any sort, even like one person, and they were listening to these about this guy coping with depression and kind of how he's been taking every step through life, and then all of a sudden he killed himself, the negative impact that would have on the potential listeners is one that I'm not going to play with, because I really want to be someone helpful and a resource to people. So I don't know. That's another tip, I guess. Build barriers around or build walls so that if you ever get to a point where you're in such a negative mindset that you're genuinely contemplating suicide, make it so that you can't do it because of something like that. That's at least what I've done. That is not professional doctoral advice, but that's what I've done. Like, I know that my family and all those people that care about me would be devastated. So that's why I won't do it. If I have to suffer for longer, fuck it, whatever. And then eventually you stop suffering and you feel better, at least for a little while. But oh well. I guess that's all I really have to talk about. I know that this whole podcast wasn't like all about high school cliques, but it's just kind of how it affected me. And I mean, I hope that you can take that information and have it help you in some way or another. So thanks for listening. Yeah, I will see you next week, and maybe I'll know how to end a podcast then. So, oh well, bye.